Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome in post trade deadline day in the NBA. Hope you guys enjoyed enjoyed the trade deadline day in the NBA. Yes, George Hill is now a 76er. Tony Bradley no longer is, and it does hurt my heart, but it was worth it. I saw some people, and I thought it went outside the realm, rather. By the way, yeah, still feeling a little under the weather. Sorry, but gonna power through. It still feels like some of the stuff that I saw yesterday on social media when it came to the Tony Bradley deal, people were actually legitimately upset, not just like, oh, man, you seemed like a good player, seemed like you could develop into something. As long as you have Dwight Howard here, as long as Dwight Howard isn't getting thrown out of a game, yeah, Tony Bradley was never going to play when it came to the postseason. So getting a veteran point guard, getting a guy who can run the offense for you, coming off the bench, is a great thing. This is what the Sixers needed to do, a small bench bolster. I told you yesterday at the end of the show, I didn't expect Kyle Lowry to be here in Philadelphia. I didn't expect him to come back to his hometown. I expected them to make a small move, one that makes you go, all right, I think they're better off than they were previous to the NBA trade deadline. And that's where they're at right now. They added a veteran guard to the lineup. They gave him a couple second-round picks, Tony Bradley, Terrence Ferguson. We're in a good spot right now if you're a 76ers fan, because ultimately what matters most is what Doc Rivers told us just a couple of weeks ago, which was very simple. There is no move they can make that matters more than simply getting Joel Embiid back healthy. So that's what we're looking at right now for the 76ers. That's my take on the deal. I would have loved to have seen them do more. And I'm the guy that's saying, you know what, you went through all these years of being terrible with the process. What's wrong with going all in at some point in the not too distant future? And if it was Kyle Lowry and they were going to go with the asking price of a first-round pick, Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, whoever it might have been between those two, and Danny Green with the pick, yeah, I don't know if I'm making that move. And I don't blame Daryl Morey for not making that move. And some reports actually have it higher than that as far as the asking price went. And Adrian Wojnarowski went out yesterday through his many tweets on deadline day, where he likes to obviously make his money, and simply reminded people of this. Woj tweeting out, in making trade offers for Kyle Lowry, teams had to take into consideration whether he would turn out to be a rental player for the season or if they were going to be able to meet his contract expectations to stay in free agency. That impacted how far teams were willing to go on him. I did think it was interesting that he ended up not being moved, especially with the bird rights that we talked about yesterday. Sixers would have had those, so you could have paid him and not taken any type of penalty. Wouldn't have gone against your cap, basically, and you would have been in pretty good shape. The Sixers, it is weird, though. They really like Tyrese Maxey. I know that we all know they really like Matisse Thybulle, who, by the way, not for nothing, his defense, again, great last night. That three-point shot was not looking good, especially for Matisse Thybulle last night. We'll get into it, especially with Mike Scott last night early in the game. It was not looking good. But anyway, the Sixers barely play Tyrese Maxey anymore. And still they were willing to hold on to him through the trade deadline because they like what he can give you off the bench. I think basically what you might be having here is Shake Milton's minutes might be in jeopardy a little bit, and I don't like that because I love the spark he provides off the bench, especially with his scoring capabilities. And probably Tyrese Maxey as well. The guard spots are obviously threatened when you bring in a veteran point guard to help run the offense, or also run the offense in a half-court set with maybe moving Ben Simmons down to the blocks, for instance. So it's going to be a little bit of a different swing, as we know, whenever you bring in a new body. So we'll see how they continue. We'll see how they break it down. We'll see how they incorporate George Hill, veteran guard, into this veteran, 34-year-old veteran guard, George Hill, into this offense. So it's what I expected the Sixers to do at the trade deadline. As much as I would have liked to have seen Kyle Lowry here, the price was too high. They said no thanks. Maybe they didn't want him for the other year. Maybe they didn't want him for 2 years anyway after this at 25 per. So they decided to just make sure they bolstered their bench a little bit, and we'll see how that goes. Now, we got Flyers conversation to get to. We got Eagles conversation to get to. Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast, will be joining the program coming up in about 15 minutes. So we'll talk to Adam Caplan about all things Eagles, including a draft special they're putting together with Greg Cosell to help walk you through all that's going on in the NFL draft. It's been weird. The college football season, weird. College basketball season, Weird. Not as weird as maybe some anticipated, but weird. So what's going to happen is Adam, Greg Cosell, Jeff Mosher will help walk us through what's going to happen with the NFL draft, who to keep our eyes on, and really who the Eagles should be looking at and keeping their eyes on after the 6th overall pick. And Adam, I know, has some interesting takes on that, as well as what could happen in the not-too-distant future with Zach Ertz. So we'll get into all that and more with Adam Caplan coming up in a minute. But to wrap up what we were talking about with the Sixers, as far as the deadline went, you have my take on it with George Hill. The game last night, I stayed up to watch this game last night. And it looked like another game that the Sixers, just from a game standpoint, it looked like another game that the Sixers were going to win comfortably. And then, I don't know what it is towards the end of these games, but they just love, excuse me, as I'm nursing the voice here. By the way, yesterday, my cousin, I was at a family thing. I mentioned that my grandfather had passed away, and I was around some family. Socially distanced, masked up, all that stuff. And we still have to say that. And because it's true. So I have to say it because it's true. And my cousin was pulling up to the funeral home, or funeral parlor, as they would say in Baltimore, where my grandfather lived. And he pulled up and he had my podcast on. And I didn't even recognize my own voice at first. So for people listening to this and watching this, oh, I'm sorry. But I just can't. I just can't take a day off. I just can't, say, I'm not going to do the show today. I got to power through. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm trying to nurse the voice along the way as well. So anyway, last night's game. I don't know what happened between Dwight Howard and Montrezl Harrell. But I thought it was hilarious. And I was enjoying it. I was enjoying their back and forth. I was enjoying seeing Dwight Howard get in the head of Harrell and have success. Like, you see the turnover that he forced after the first little run in. That's funny. If I'm not mistaken, the ref actually called a foul on Harrell shortly, not right up against, like almost right around the time that he threw up Dwight Howard. So you knew the ref saw it from both sides. So that's why I was shocked when I saw Dwight Howard get thrown out of a game after he had been shoved twice by Harrell. And Harrell, nothing happens to him. Not a thing happens to him. And look, we all know what Dwight Howard was doing. If you didn't see it, it's all over the internet. It's all over Twitter and whatnot. But Dwight Howard goes up and he's walking off the court. There's a break in the action. And he purposely bumps into Montrezl Harrell. And yeah, he was being a nudge. He was being a nuisance. And Harrell just pushes him out of the way. Ref comes running up, tees up Dwight Howard, and throws him out of the game. And Dwight Howard is shocked. After the game, Doc Rivers was asked about the incident. And I think Doc Rivers actually had the perfect take on this situation. When he was asked about it in-game by the TNT broadcast, he simply said, clowns. They're clowns. Both those guys, clowns. They can't act like that. And he was talking about Dwight Howard and Harrell as well. I agree. That's a perfect way to describe it. They were being goofy, but I thought Dwight Howard was more being goofy and doing a good job of kind of being an agitator, not as much of an instigator, but an agitator. Apparently can't be an agitator anymore. And he decides that he's going to get in the head of Harrell a little bit, bumps into him. Those two go back and forth, and then Dwight Howard gets thrown out. Harrell, nothing happens to him. And 2 separate occasions, he shoves Dwight Howard. So I'm thinking, all right, this isn't going to be so good, and especially because I had the Sixers at -5.5. It turned out they ended up covering that anyway. But throughout the game, you're starting to hear this false narrative from the TNT broadcast. Oh, the referees have to make sure they have order in this game. Order? They just let a guy shove another guy a couple of different times, and they kept him in and threw out the guy that got shoved simply for being a nuisance. Dumb. Anyway, just stupid. Now, as the game went on, as I was saying, the Sixers built up a great lead again. I think they were up like 15 points. And in the third quarter, that you start to see that lead, or excuse me, in the fourth quarter, you start to see that lead slip away. It was tied at halftime, I think a 54 piece. Then they come out in the third quarter and the Sixers took control. In the fourth quarter, again, they just let the opposing team, in this case, the Lakers, with no LeBron, no AD, they let them come back in this game. And it got to a point where a couple of threes, and all of a sudden the Lakers are going to be leading this game. And They were able to get Tobias Harris going again in the fourth quarter. He has been their closer. Danny Green was remarkable throughout this game. I think he finished with 8 threes in this game, including one that was all but the game sealer in the corner where he was blanketed on the play and rose up anyway, shot the 3 in the corner, nailed it, just absolutely nailed it. And that was really when you looked at the situation and went, yeah, they got this. So watching this game play out the way it did last night, it gave you a little bit of worry because, again, it was them leaking oil in the or leaking fuel in the fourth quarter. But that's also where you look at a guy like Joel Embiid and say, all right, big fella, when you're back, you're going to be helping closing out these games so these fourth quarter lead dissipations don't become the norm when you're back in the lineup. So wild game watching the Lakers-Sixers game last night. Sixers got the win. Great to see that. And it's the first game that they didn't have their Tony Bradley coming off the bench for them in replacement of Joel Embiid. And, of course, it just happens to be a game where Dwight Howard gets thrown out after the first quarter. Crazy. We'll get to we'll get to some football conversation in a minute. I got to talk to you about these Flyers. Every once in a while, you'll get a friend of yours, or maybe it's even you. Maybe you're the friend that will text you during a game, and you'll say I'm out. I'm done. Forget this team. And you might have that friend that does that a lot. I have a friend, my buddy Joe, biggest Flyers fan I know. I have never, we've been friends since we were 10 years old. I've never gotten the text message, I'm done with this team. What are the Sixers doing? I don't know if Joe's watched too many basketball games in his life, but anyway, he's a big Sixers fan now. But I don't blame you. This brand of Flyers hockey that we have been watching for the last 3-4 weeks has been abysmal. It has been awful. It has hurt my eyes to watch. And we've talked about it already many times in terms of who's going to be the guy to step up and fight. Like, that shouldn't be what we're relying on right now. And rarely, if you're relying on that, is there ever a guy that's going to fight and then turn the key, flip the switch, and then all of a sudden they're a much different hockey team. We talked about Nolan Patrick trying to get in a fight after Claude Giroux was hit a couple of weeks ago. We've talked about Oscar Lindblom getting in a fight just last week. These aren't guys that should be stepping up and fighting. So I at least give Sam Moran credit last night for getting inserted back into the lineup with the big league hockey club, getting back on defense, not playing wing as he was during training camp. And he actually goes out there and he looks like he wants to fight some people. He actually looks like he wants to be that spark. As far as the way he fought at the end of that game, not so much. I could do without it. Yeah, was it emotion? Sure, it was emotion. He played like that throughout. The way that fight happened, sure, he waited for his opponent to drop the gloves, and then he pounced him. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw a hair pull, which I haven't seen for quite some time, maybe since the days of the Hound, or not the Hound. Well, the Hound was playing too. The Hammer. So I wouldn't mind seeing Sam Moran in this lineup a little bit more. At least he showed you that he gives a damn about what's going on with his hockey team. After the game, by the way, they lost 8-3. It was the second time in 2 weeks that they've allowed 8 or more goals to the New York Rangers. And they look like a team right now. The Flyers look like a team right now that is simply a sparring partner for better teams. They look like a team that I can remember if your coach was installing a different play when you're a kid, he might tell the defense, hey, take it easy. We're just going to I want you guys to see how this play runs. So don't run token defense, right? Token defense is exactly what we have on this hockey team. And I don't see anyone stepping up to stop it. No matter how many times Sam Moran wants to get in a fight, no matter how many times we might look at TK as trying to be that nudge, similar to what we were talking about with Dwight Howard. The only way this team is going to play better hockey is if you really see the front office start to make moves. Because I think Alain Vigneault has done all that he can do at this point. Maybe he's actually tried a little too hard to get things going with this lineup again and get things going with this team as a whole. But right now, after you hear Chuck Fletcher address the media, maybe issue some challenges where he talks about holding everybody accountable. If your GM comes out and gives that speech, and then the next day you get blown out 8-3, who exactly is going to be holding people accountable here? I mean, other than the fans who are going to these games, booing at these games, trying to get some kind of rise out of this team, who are you going to go to? Who is going to be the guy? What's the button that you're going to push? Because right now, I think Sam Moran just fighting people isn't going to do it. As much as I wished it would, it's not going to do it. Claude Giroux, the captain of this team, I don't know what he can do to try to motivate these players. And again, I think Alain Vigneault has done a lot to try to get things going in the right direction, and perhaps maybe even too much with shaking things up. A little too much throughout the last couple of weeks to try to find that right pairing, those right lines that just might have the chemistry to push forward. I'm not seeing it right now. I know teams have struggled. Yesterday, I brought up the St. Louis Blues, how bad they were before they made their Stanley Cup run. I mean, heck, even the Flyers last year went through some struggles, but not like this. 8 goals, 9 goals, 6 goals, just no defense, no goaltending. And I find myself saying similar things. And I know this isn't breaking news to some people, but I had said that I'm staying away from the Carson Wentz and Carter Hart comparisons. Carson Wentz was given a little bit more time here than Carter Hart. All right, Carter Hart's in his second year of really supposed to be the number one guy for this hockey team. But watching Carter Hart last night, I did find myself thinking about Carson Wentz. And yeah, there was a lot of things you could blame with Carson Wentz and the Eagles and the offensive line being bad and not having great receivers, not having good receivers and all that. And you could certainly say, it's not all Carson's fault, because obviously it wasn't. But at some point, a quarterback is supposed to be the deodorant for a bad football team and say, to hell with it. You're on my back. Let's go. We're going to win. And I'm looking at Carter Hart like that now too. And I'm going to give him more time. I'm not out on Carter Hart. I'm not saying that the Flyers don't have a goaltender. Right now they don't. But watching Carter Hart last night, I'm watching him go side to side on so many different one-timer opportunities, and he just can't come up with a stop. And I'm watching him go side to side with these one-timers, and I'm thinking, okay, first off, why are they allowing these passes to happen? Why are the passing lanes for the Flyers? We talked about it the other day, tic-tac-toe against the Devils on that Travis Zajac goal. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen with the Flyers this year. How many times have we seen that happen with the Flyers last year, where these passing lanes are just wide open on the power play at even strength? It's almost too easy for opposing teams to get the puck right in the crease to score a goal. And when you talk about the one-timers from yesterday, I mean, maybe Carter Hart's over pursuing in some areas. I don't know. But you consistently see his problem going side to side in these games. And sooner or later, he does have to be the guy where you're just baffled at how he's making these saves. And you have to be baffled in maybe a 3-2 hockey game, how the Flyers are even leading the game 3-2. Well, it's because their netminder has made 35 saves and they've all been spectacular, like that kind of thing. I don't know where this team goes. I don't know what button they push. I don't know what the front office is going to do. But right now, they need a hell of a lot more than just a little shakeup. They certainly need a hell of a lot more than Sam Moran fighting everybody in sight. As much as you might like to see that as a Flyer fan in particular, that is not going to be the recipe for success with this hockey team. And I can't say it enough. The Flyers have come to right now, they remind me of a team that is just a sparring partner for better teams. Yeah, we're going to go play. We're going to go play the Flyers. It'll give us a chance to work on what we need to work on. Yeah, that's not what you want to be in hockey. So Alain Vigneault said after the game, they're going to go back to the basics. They're going to try to do the, execute everything they can in practice. That's how they'll try to respond to all this. And I couldn't help but think, and I always forget the man's name that said it. I think it was a coach in Florida. When he was asked after a game, what did he think of his team's execution? And he said, I'm in favor of it. That kind of popped in my head last night when I was listening to Alain Vigneault. So we'll touch on the Flyers a little bit more after we talk to Adam Caplan. But right now, I do want to tell you about what happened yesterday with the Joe Flacco press conference. Here's what I like about Joe Flacco. Other than veteran, other than Super Bowl MVP and a Super Bowl champion with the Ravens, he's from the area. Cool. That's just an extra added bonus, whatever. No big deal. And he was certainly asked about that enough yesterday during his 13-minute press conference. But here's what I like about Joe Flacco. You don't have to worry about competition with him. And I'm not saying that in regard when it comes to, they don't want to give competition to Jalen Hurts. Although I believe that the Eagles believe that, I don't think Joe Flacco believes that. And he was asked multiple times throughout the press conference yesterday when he wasn't being asked about how he's from South Jersey. He was asked multiple times about being a mentor to Jalen Hurts. And he never said, I'm going to be a mentor. He was like, guys, we're a team. We're in a quarterback room together. Everybody tries to help everybody. He never got agitated. He never copped a tood or anything like that. But he was very honest with the reporters, saying, I'm not just going to put my arm around this guy and, just be his coach on the field. And he was asked about, from Dave Zangaro of NBC Sports Philly, Dave asked him, so wait a minute, when you were brought in, were you then told you would have a chance to compete for the starting job? And this is the only thing that Flacco kind of balked at for a second and then answered in, I think, a very, very honest way. Here's Joe Flacco yesterday at his Philadelphia Eagle introductory press conference.
I'm not even really looking at it that way at this point. Like I said, I really would just want to come in and, your goal as a football player is always to show people, around you that you can play football. And I don't care what level of playing that is, whether you're the first string, second string, third string guy on the team, you still want to prove to everybody on the football team that you can play football and that you deserve a spot on this team in some capacity. And that's really what my job is. Once I meet the guys and get, dive into this offense, it's going out in the field and proving to everybody that I'm not just some old guy that's been around the league and, is coming to a new team. My job is to prove to these guys that, I deserve some respect and I can play this game at a high level. And that's really what I mean by being competitive and competing, is just showing guys that, I know how to do this, and I'm going to show you that I know how to do this. You don't have to look at what I've done in the past or, in a positive way or negative way. Just take it for what it is, what you see today, and that's what I'm here to do.
The phrase that pays in that answer there is, I'm not just some old guy. And I know that's how a lot of people are going to be looking at Joe Flacco. And I think it was Les Bowen of the Inquirer that actually asked him, hey, you're going to be older. Have you ever been older than your head coach? Because that's the situation here pretty much with or his offensive coordinator with the Eagles and how young this coaching staff is. And he said, yeah, I don't think that I've ever been in that case before. But he's not going to be the elder statesman. I know other players will look at him. Jalen Hurts, he said yesterday, Jalen Hurts already texted him. They texted back and forth just saying how excited they were to work with each other and get the season started, and that's great. But I really respect Joe Flacco for saying, yeah, look, I know everyone's going to look at me and say, oh, he's the veteran here to put an arm around Jalen Hurts. The hell with that. That man thinks he can still play a lot of football. He feels like he's got a lot of football left in his career, and I hope he does. I want him to compete, because if there was a buzzword in yesterday's press conference, it was just that word, compete. And I know if Jeffrey Lurie doesn't want to surround him with competition, and competition makes the cream rise to the top every single time, well, then it's up to the players to say, yeah, Jeff, that's cute. You can sit up there and say the no competition. But guess what? This is football. Everybody here is going to be competing for a starting job. I mean, think about it like this. One of the other stories that came out yesterday from the Eagles was Alex Singleton. And Alex Singleton's been on the show. Great guy. And what if you would have told Alex Singleton there was no competition at the linebacker position? Would he just thrown his hands up in the air and be like, all right, well, I guess I'll just let everybody else take this? No, he went out and he worked his ass off. And now the guy is going to be your starting middle linebacker when the season starts up. Like, that's where we're at right now. You got to have competition on a football field. Anybody that says, or a football team for that matter, anybody that says there's no competition, like, what are you even doing around the sport? What are you even doing around sports? I know you might want to protect a guy or protect an investment like you did with a second-round pick, a 53rd overall pick in Jalen Hurts, but you can't tell the guy that you even just brought in as your backup quarterback that there's no competition. If you sign someone that doesn't believe in competition, guess what? You've just made a mistake. So kudos to you, Joe Flacco. I think you know that this is Jalen Hurts' team, but to hell with admitting that. To hell with just saying you're going to mentor this guy. To hell with saying that you are going to be just some old guy to put your arm around Jalen Hurts. To heck with all that. Credit to you, Joe Flacco, for at least just saying, yeah, guess what? We're going to compete, because that's what we do as football players. And he, like, the look on his face was like, this isn't physics. Like, I don't have to explain this, right? Like, we're trying to compete to become better football players to make everybody around us win. So credit to Joe Flacco for that. Like I said, we're going to have a little bit more on the Flyers a little bit later in the show. A little bit more on the Eagles when we talk to our friend Adam Caplan coming up in a minute from Inside the Birds podcast. But right now, I do want to tell you about my friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy's just incredible. I just got another text from a friend of mine, told me that he went to Steven Singer. I said, first off, you got to tell me. I'd like to at least pass on the info that I got somebody going in there. And he goes, no, it was great. He goes, the perfect price, right? I said, damn right, the perfect price every single time at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, or at IHateStevenSinger.com. got the engagement ring. He's popping the question. No, his soon-to-be fiance doesn't watch this show or listen to the show. Not a big sports fan at all. I've only met her a couple of times anyway. But anyway, so he went there, got his engagement ring, texted me a picture of it. It's a beautiful engagement ring because, of course, it is. I tell my friends, I tell my family, go to Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. I don't just tell my audience that. I don't just tell people I communicate with on social media that. I tell my own family, my own friends to go to Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. That's what I do as well for my wedding band. That's what I did for my wife's engagement ring as well. And make sure you get the perfect price every single time because that's what they're there to do. They don't want you to worry about haggling. They don't want you to have to worry about negotiating. They don't want you to feel that pressure. You got enough things on your mind. Try to pop the question. So when you go to Steven Singer Jewelers at the other corner of 8th and Walnut, just know that when you're sitting there and you're looking at all the beautiful diamonds, all the beautiful jewelry that they have to offer, the guy next to you, the girl next to you, guess what? They're not paying less than you. They're not negotiating better than you. Everything is set at the perfect price. So no worries when you go into Steven Singer Jewelers. You can just relax and worry about only the diamond or the piece of jewelry that you want to purchase. Steven Singer Jewelers, every single time, the perfect price, 365 days a year. The other corner of 8th and Walnut, or at IHateStevenSinger.com. Right now, let's jump on the Zatos Investments guest line and talk to our friend Adam Caplan about all things Philadelphia Eagles. And joining us now on the Zatos Investments guest line, our friend from Inside the Birds podcast, along with Jeff Mosher, our good friend Adam Caplan joins the show. Adam, how are you, sir?
Mark, good to be with you again, and really happy to be here when the weather is turning beautiful in the spring. Try to get out there, folks. Get out there, and we could finally get out there with this COVID thing. We get outside. Weather's turning now. No snow anymore. We've actually hit spring. Yes, spring has officially started. So out there playing a little bit of tennis this week and enjoying it, and looking forward to everything that's going to happen going forward.
Yeah, I didn't know you were a big tennis guy until recently. You love going out. How's the backhand?
Yeah. So you know what? It used to be awful. Man's got limitations. I knew how bad it was when I started. It's at least average. My forehand, I have a power forehand. I hit the ball really hard. I'm pretty accurate, but my serve is horrendous, and that's what I know exactly what the issue is, and I will continue to work on it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I knew all this already because I watched your combine tape, and you're honest. Right. You're very honest.
Tennis combine. Oh my god!
Exactly.
They'd throw me out.
By the way, speaking of the combine, which obviously means speaking of the draft here, we're going to be looking at something special that you're going to be doing with Inside the Birds, and Greg Cosell joining you guys. I know he does a lot of stuff with you guys already, but I was just notified of this. This is pretty awesome here. NFL analyst Greg Cosell joins Inside the Birds own Jeff Mosher and Adam Caplan for their new limited podcast, Inside the Draft, with Greg Cosell. What can you tell me about this, Adam?
Yeah, so Mark, we've got 6 shows. The first 5 are going to be pre-draft, where we're going to go over positions, all the top players. Obviously, because we are mostly an Eagles podcast, we're going to hit a lot of Eagles stuff because that's why people want to listen. But we're also going to take a broader look at how to scout, how Greg scouts. He's never done anything. The stuff that I have planned and Jeff has planned for this, stuff that Greg normally doesn't talk about, and we're going to help people learn. This is the concept of Inside the Birds, which I came up with 3 years ago when I got Jeff involved. And our mantra is still the same. Jeff and I see it through the same prism. Is to help people learn the game. That's the whole thing. I wouldn't do anything else. That's the only podcast I wanted to do, is to help people become better Eagle fans, and I think we've done that. And bring Greg in. The love affair that our fans have with Greg kind of shocks me because most people hate Greg. No, but our fans, our listeners, love him, and it was a no-brainer. So we got a deal done with Greg, and then we're going to do one post-draft show with Greg, which will review all the Eagles picks, how they fit in scheme-wise, offense and defense, and then we'll also do like we did last year. We did a divisional series. We broke down the Washington roster, the Giants roster, the Cowboys roster, and obviously the Eagles roster before the season started, and people love that, and we'll do that probably in August.
Okay. I look forward to it. I definitely have to do a crash course. College sports in general has been weird, like everything else during the pandemic, to put it plainly, to put it lightly, to put it simply. Yep. It's been really weird. So I will have to have some catch-up work done here. Outside the first round, Adam, I'm clueless. But while we're talking about the draft right now, is there somebody that you have your heart set on at number 6 for the Eagles right now? Who's the guy you're looking at or guys you're looking at that can most help the Birds at 6?
Oh, gosh. I mean, they're in a position, Mark. The good thing is there's only 5 teams pick in front of them. So they're going to get, assuming they stay at 6, a phenomenal football player. They're just, I hate to say this because then people will hold it against me, but there's really no way they can miss on this one.
Ooh.
The list, Mark, is so good. And this includes quarterback, by the way, although it's highly unlikely they would draft a quarterback. Whether they go with Jamar Chase, who I don't know that he gets there. There are a couple teams ahead of them that could certainly draft a wide receiver. Whether it's Chase or Kyle Pitts, who's from the Abington area, who's phenomenal, who is what we call an OW, an offensive weapon. He's really not a tight end. He's not a traditional tight end. He could be used as one. He would fit in incredibly well because they need passing options. Those would be the two guys that I would look at. There are plenty of trade opportunities for sure. And then the other factor,
we broke up for just 1 second. Plenty of what?
Trade down possibilities. I'm talking about if they traded down. It's really deep in terms of receiver and other positions. Cornerback, by the way, and the Eagles need 3 outside corners, not 2. They need 3 by the time the season starts. There are plenty of really good corners that you could, if they're able to draft down. It's easy. It's easy. Everybody wants to trade down in mock drafts, but it's not that easy. This is real life. But trade down, it's really strong as you get back in the top 10 and also in the teens.
Mm-hmm. Speaking with Adam Caplan here from Inside the Birds podcast. They have a draft special coming up with Greg Cosell. Also, Jeff Mosher, Inside the Birds as well. Adam, so when we're looking at this team, they've just made a couple of changes. Most notably, the backup quarterback now is going to be Joe Flacco. They brought him on a deal that some people are down on, mostly because of the money, I assume. I'm okay with Joe Flacco being here. I'm okay with the money. Where do you stand with the Joe Flacco signing?
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand, but I understand. Because Flacco was making just over $1 million last year. Well, folks, let me explain to you. He had no leverage last year. The Eagles were interested in him last year, but they dropped out when they knew he needed neck surgery. And obviously, when they drafted Jalen Hurts, that was another factor. But the fact of the matter is, this year, the Niners were heavily into it, I'm told, till the end. So they didn't. Now, because the Eagles got Flacco in the second week, not the first, instead of paying $5 million, they paid $3.5 million. That's all he'll make this season as long as he doesn't play. So I don't know where the outrage is. Folks, look at the rest of the quarterbacks that are out there. Then get back to me. That's all I have to say about that.
What about the mentoring aspect of all this, where Joe Flacco is supposed to come in here and, I guess, be a mentor to Jalen Hurts to help him, help groom him as the Eagles starting quarterback?
That's really not, you know what, and this happens in a lot of markets. Other than Josh McCown, there aren't a lot of quarterbacks that are coming in and who are, and McCown, obviously was around 40 and Joe's 36. But Flacco is healthy. He has a lot of football left in him. I'm sure, as Joe talked about in his press conference this week, he'll help the room. He's going to help the room be more competitive. But your mentoring is, he may see something at practice and say something, but that's really like Aaron Rodgers said this. That's not his job to mentor. His job is to help when you can help. But I think the mentoring thing sometimes gets overused, and I don't quite understand even what it means, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think people want to have this really pretty picture in their head of Joe Flacco putting his arm all dramatically around Jalen Hurts and say, "No, buddy, this is how you do it." That kind of thing.
But he's not. Okay, that brings up a fair point. He's not a coach on the field. Mm-hmm. But as Joe said this week, he's been in the league a long time. What you hope is, this is the Eagles' hope. Okay, this guy's a Super Bowl winner and a Super Bowl MVP. One of the all-time stretches we've ever seen in the history of the league for the playoffs. Didn't know he could do it. I've covered Joe since 2007 when he was at Delaware. He had never played to that level for whatever reason, and he was unbelievable. Now, do you fast forward nearly 9 years? He's in the twilight of his career, has a couple years left. He's healthy, by the way, and he's got a lot left in him. He's got 2 or 3 years left if he wants to play in him. And as he said, and it's true, it's the first time in his career he's going in as a backup. That's just truly the backup at the start, really when he knows it. Because when he signed with the Jets, it was so late. Remember, he was coming off neck surgery. He couldn't compete for anything because he was throwing in the spring after the surgery. Not too long after the surgery, he was throwing, but he was not cleared to practice until September. So there was never any competition. Mm-hmm. This is the first time he's going in. He knows that there's the backup. There's no doubt about who the starter is as of now. It's Jalen Hurts.
Mm-hmm. Speaking with Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast. We had Nick Sirianni, or not Nick Sirianni. We had Connor Barwin on the show yesterday, Adam, and he had talked about Nick Sirianni bringing this kind of new energy. And I know the number one talking point surrounding Nick Sirianni right now is press conferences and how he handles himself in press conferences. What can you tell me? And I've been meaning to ask you this for a while.
Sure.
Can you tell me about Nick Sirianni that might get some Eagles fans not necessarily excited right now because it's the offseason, still no games on? What can you tell me about him and the way you think he's going to coach this team?
Okay, this is what gets me excited. I'm not an Eagles fan, so I don't care who wins or loses. It's not my job. But as someone who loves the game as I do, Mark, I love the passion, the energy. He's in your face. He's coaches hard. Okay, this is coming from coaches who've worked with him that I've talked to. This is the big one here. They're into player development, this staff, is what I was told. I know Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. You can't take it away from him. Overall, he did a very good job. But the lack of development of their roster over the 5 years he was head coach, it's a problem when Doug was the head coach. So that should change. Player development's going to be bigger. And don't forget about this. There's another nugget, which people, if they think about it, they would probably realize this. This guy's a former receiver. Kevin Patullo, who's his right-hand man on the offensive staff, is a former receiver. They've got Aaron Moorhead, a former receiver who's coaching the receivers. If they can't develop this receiver group, I give up. That's where it is.
All right. Easy enough. I need to see 7 touchdowns from J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. Yeah,
that's a hard one. Now no, I'll tell you what, if they get something out of him, if he's their fourth receiver, gets 35 catches, I'm in.
Okay. I'll be in for that as well. Adam, continue to look at this team right now, and we're also looking at the draft and everything that could be going on with that with Greg Cosell when you guys talk to him, and the Inside the Birds, Inside the Draft with Greg Cosell special you guys are going to be doing in the limited podcast. When we look at this team as it is right now, one of the biggest questions is revolving around Zach Ertz and what is ultimately going to happen. I went from a point of no way he comes back, 100% no way he comes back, to maybe 97% no way he comes back. Where do you think they stand right now with Zach Ertz and possibly returning next year to the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, Mark, it would be hard to imagine that he would be an Eagle in the fall. As I understand, there is interest in him elsewhere, but the Eagles are not getting anywhere close in an offer that they would be willing to accept anything for Zach yet. I can't emphasize this point enough. On Carson Wentz's contract, they had major urgency because there was some guaranteed money that would convert to fully guaranteed money by a certain date in March. So they really wanted to move him before that money became due, and that's what they did. So looking at Ertz, there's no guaranteed money. All he's owed is base salary. There's no dates. They don't have to worry about anything. Now, you want to do right by Zach. You don't want to have him out there until June or July, and it shouldn't take that long. And if they have to take this up to the draft, then they'll take it up to the draft. It's really not a big deal. But I totally would understand why Zach would want this situation resolved. It will get resolved. He will not be an Eagle whenever that's going to be, whether it's in a week from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now. He will not be an Eagle in the fall. The reason is, with Zach on the roster, you're kind of forced to be 12 personnel again, which is 2 tight ends, 2 receivers. You want multiple. Dallas Goedert's the guy. From what I understand, the staff is very high on him. And Zach has some time. He clearly has some left in him. The problem was last season he wasn't healthy with that high ankle sprain. He wound up having surgery. So he needs to get back to where he was before the surgery. And I'm sure he's got 2 good years left in him. And talk about a guy who would mentor. He's just such a leader. What a great Eagle. He should go in the Eagles Hall of Fame. Obviously one of the best tight ends in Eagles history. But when you look at Zach and Dallas Goedert, I just don't see it working in the future. Dallas has got to be the guy, and then they'll draft somebody to replace Zach.
Mm-hmm. With Zach Ertz and watching what has gone down really over the last couple of years here and how great he has been, and last year having some injury issues, what do you think the future holds for him and how much he has left in the tank?
Yeah, I think definitely if you're a team trading for him and get 2 or 3 years out of him. I don't know how long he wants to play. He only turns 31 this fall. He's just a guy you want to have, incredible in the locker room, incredible for the community. He adds value to your football team, and he's such a dependable pass target. He's not the athlete that Dallas Goedert is. I remember Greg Cosell telling me years ago, Dallas Goedert's a better athlete than Ertz. Ertz is a superior route runner. The guy just gets open. So that's what he adds for a football team, wherever the Eagles trade him to, and I don't see them ever cutting him. To me, they should just take this as far. They should just take this mark as far as they need to get something of value for him. Whether it's a fifth round pick next year, which become a fourth, depending on how many catches he has, whatever parameters you want to put on the conditional pick for next year. They should be able to get a fourth one way or the other, but they're not getting a third. No way. Fourth is still a little bit tough right now. Fifth they can get. It's just I'm not the Eagles, so I don't know what they're willing to accept in the end, but certainly taking a 6th round pick ain't going to do it. And they got to get a fourth. They got to get some way to get a fourth here. To me, in the information gathering phase that I've been with this situation, I do believe a fourth, one way or the other, will get it done, and I think that's what they'll get in the end. But it may not be quite the way they get the fourth. It could again be a conditional fifth. It becomes a fourth next year. We'll see what happens.
All right, now just last thing on the Zach Ertz subject. Does it help the situation that he's willing to play, the upcoming season for whatever team it is under the current contract he has?
Well, here's the bigger question. That's not the issue. The issue is that team willing to take him at $8.5 million. Okay. I mean, that's his base salary. So if you're a team, you have to look at this tight end position and say, okay, if you're receiving Zach Ertz, what is our goal here? Are we a 12 personnel team? Or are we 11, which is 3 receivers, 1 tight end? Who's our 1 tight end? Now, if we're a 12 personnel team, we're going to have Zach come in. He's going to share time like Zach would do with Goddard. How much of a factor is he? Because how do you justify $8.5 million? So that's the issue here. Not only are you giving up a draft pick, whether it's this year or next year, you also have to pay him $8.5 million. That's where it is.
Mm-hmm. Speaking with Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast, along with Jeff Mosher as well. So you mentioned defense, and you mentioned 3 cornerbacks earlier in our conversation here.
Outside guys. Yeah.
Outside guys you want them to add. Is there anybody here right now? I mean, Darius Slay is a guy that can obviously...
He's starting outside, yeah.
He's starting outside. Avonte Maddox, they're going to keep him out there. They're going to move him inside.
Got to play nickel. Got to play inside. See, this is where I came up with 3.
Yeah.
It flat out did not work with Maddox outside. It's not debatable. It's a fact. He just was uncomfortable. It didn't work. I know he got hurt. He could be a supreme slot corner, one of the best in the National Football League. He's got speed. He's tough. He's competitive. He's smart, but he's not an outside corner. Just didn't work out there. If you put him in the slot, they don't have an outside corner who's ready to play. Craig James is a 4th or 5th corner who could play inside or outside, but he's not a starter. Michael Jacquet had flashed a little bit, then reality hit him. He's a 4th or 5th corner. That's all you have. So that they have to. Kevon Seymour is a 4th or 5th corner. You've got to go out and get 3 outside corners. They may disagree. They may say 2, but that's where that is. Because if you've got Slay, and plus remember now, Slay's 30. And that's another part about this, which people, have forgotten about. Darius Slay, he was a little bit inconsistent, particularly against the better teams. Overall, he played solid football, but they need him. They need him to play pretty much elite football because teams are going to go after that secondary, man. He just turned 30 in January. So look, in 2 years, that might be it for him. So, you don't want to wait till it's too late, Mark. You got to start getting those outside corners and do that right now.
Certainly. While we're talking defense, what can you tell me about Jonathan Gannon? We talked about Nick Sirianni, the energy he'll bring. Is it a similar type of thing? Jonathan Gannon, I know a lot of people were freaking out about the way he hugged his latest addition to the secondary the other day.
Yes,
So what can you tell me about Jonathan Gannon?
All right. People will probably use this against me if I'm wrong, but based on the coaches I spoke with him around the league that know him really well, not only will he be a head coach of the National Football League in the future, my prediction, now it's up to Howie Roseman in the front office to get him better players on the back end and obviously at linebacker. But my prediction is it's going to go well for him, and he'll only be here 2 years. He'll become a head coach after his 2nd season here. Again, I'm going to go out there on a limb here. I just know who I spoke with, who these guys shoot me straight. Some of these guys that I speak with will always tell me the negative stuff if there's stuff, but I haven't heard a damn thing negative. By the way, there's a great interview he did with Dave Spadaro from the Eagles website. You must listen to it. It's phenomenal. He's
okay.
And the funny thing is he's yet another guy from offense. I think he played offense. He might have played receiver in college. I don't remember. But anyway, like Brandon Staley, the head coach of the Chargers, was a guy who first started his career in offense and he went to defense. But this guy, and obviously he knew Sirianni because they worked together, but this is a home run hire. He's the best hire of the staff. It's not even close to, other than obviously keeping Stalin, which is huge. But for guys he actually hired, this one is an absolute home run, and we'll see if I'm right, but it's up to the front office to get him players.
Well, if I recall correctly, the last time the Eagles took a defensive coordinator from the Colts staff, it worked out pretty well. I'm
Jim
pretty
Johnson.
sure. Jim Johnson, of course.
He's
My
awesome.
man. Yeah. Now I'm going to get accused of comparing them already and not doing that. Adam, this was fun talking about football and stuff. So let's get done. We're done working. Forget about work. We're done. George Hill, is he enough for the 76ers at the deadline to help bolster this team? What do you think of George Hill being added to the Sixers?
Mark, I'm so glad they did not trade for Lowry because of what reportedly my friend Brian Windhorst supposedly reported. I didn't see it. Someone's just aggregating what he said.
Mm-hmm.
Windy, I love, great guy. We got to know each other a little bit at ESPN. That the proposed talent that they wanted is absurd, just in terms of first round compensation and players. Guy's 35. How old is Lowry? 35.
He just turned 35 today.
And it doesn't he have an expiring contract?
Excuse me, yesterday. He does, and he wants a 2-year deal after it.
Forget it. I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing it. It's not worth it. Look, the Sixers certainly. I've said it all along. They need another outside shooter. There's no question about it. They need one more guy. JJ Redick's had this heel injury. He's also older, but as much as I like Tyrese Maxey, he's just not ready yet to be the backup point. He's just not. He needs a summer league. He needs a training camp. But he's so explosive and so gifted. He also needs to improve his shot. But he's a kid for the future you want to have on your roster. I'm so glad they didn't trade him. And what did they give up? They gave up. I mean, the kid Bradley. I mean, it's a great story. The backup center.
Yeah.
I mean, all of a sudden, as Doc Rivers said, he lost 20, 25 pounds in season. That's a great story. And boy, if they needed him lately, when Embiid comes back, he wouldn't even touch the floor.
Right.
This is a great trade. Now, George Hill, I get it. He's had a big injury history. They just need 20 minutes out of the guy. And what it'll allow them to do is move Simmons to the 4 if they want. There's a variety of lineups you could have when you put George Hill in the game. You have Simmons in the lineup. There's a lot of flexibility. And he could shoot to 3. I mean, this kid, George Hill could shoot to 3. So he'll help. And he's experienced. And that's what you need. Maxey's just not there yet as a 1. He's just not there as a lead guard. But he is fun to watch, man. He had a play the other night. He just blew by the defense. He's a fun watch. So look, the Sixers, I'm so glad that they did not give up the farm for Lowry. To me, it would have been a mistake. You always got to think about the future as well. You just can't sell out and give up the farm for a guy who's probably not going to be in your basketball team next season. So I'm glad they didn't do it.
No, I am as well. And I wanted Lowry, but not at the cost.
I did.
Not at the cost that they had him going at.
Yep.
Adam Caplan, I'll hit it one more time. Well, first off, when did the latest Inside the Birds just drop this morning?
Yeah, Moshe and I dropped it on Thursday morning. We drop it at. So here's what we do. Every Monday and Thursday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern, we drop it. We also have the Q&A show with Jason Avant, number 81, of course. Quentin Michael, number 27. Those guys are so smart. They know 50 million times more football than I do. I listen to learn. This is what the whole concept that Jeff and I created some years ago is bring in smart people. We had Trey Thomas, obviously, with Greg Cosell in our pregame show. We brought Q&A in, and we're working on more player shows, which we're definitely going to have. It's just a matter of we're going through a list of retired Eagles. There's actually one ex-Eagle who contacted me, which I can't say now, who's listened. He wants in. He lives in the area. Okay. But I gotta run it by Moshe. I gotta see what he thinks. Yeah.
The flagpole.
Yeah. Look, we're partners, man.
Absolutely.
We run by ideas. We brainstorm the hell out of everything with our we call him our business manager, the great Josh Weinfeld, who represents all of us, including yourself. Joshy is an absolute superstar, so we're glad to have him along with us.
No doubt about it. Adam Caplan, always a pleasure, my friend. And one more plug for Greg Cosell and the show you guys are going to be putting together.
It'll drop Tuesday at 6 a.m. Q&A drop Wednesday. So here's the great thing. We've got Inside the Birds, our channel, which you can see on YouTube if you want to see us on video. For some reason, more people watched us and listened to us last week on the pod version. I don't quite understand that. But as you know, more stuff it's evolving. It's hard to understand why sometimes people want to see us more than listen more. I don't know. But so Monday, us. Tuesday, Greg Cosell with us. Q&A Wednesday. Moshe and I on Thursday. And then we also do our Tuesday night. Jeff and I do our live stream where we just all we do is questions. You can join our message board on Facebook. Please do that because That's where we grab the questions mostly from. So please do that. Inside the Birds on Facebook.
Easy enough. No better place to go for all your Birds knowledge than Inside the Birds. Adam Caplan, thank you for not just your Eagles knowledge, but your Sixers knowledge as well. Always a pleasure to talk to you. And yeah, maybe when all this is over, we'll get out there on the tennis court.
Do you play?
I played in college. No big deal.
Did you?
No, I took a class. I took
yeah,
class.
yeah, that's fine. Very good. Nice.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. Adam Caplan joining us here on the Zatos Investments guest line. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Whenever I talk to Adam Caplan, I know when we were always talking football, he always wants to talk basketball, and it kind of reminds me of, I think it was Tom Selleck, the great Tom Selleck, excuse me, that said, actors want to be athletes and athletes want to be actors. Adam Caplan is an Eagles analyst that wants to be a Sixers analyst, and I love every second of it. I love talking to Adam Caplan. Check him out, as always, Inside the Birds podcast, including what we had just mentioned, the special they're going to be doing, the limited podcast with Greg Cosell to help keep you up to date on all the things going on with the NFL draft as it pertains to the Philadelphia Eagles. Two things that stuck out to me from that interview. One, that Sixers are in a good place. All right, so three things. One, Sixers are in a good place. Then there's two football things that stuck out to me. I love OW. I have not heard OW ever in my life. Offensive weapon. I'm in. Put it on a T-shirt. That's brilliant. Love that idea. Kyle Pitts, OW, offensive weapon. O-Dub. Little O-Deb. A little O-Dub there, maybe? I don't know. But Kyle Pitts, love that conversation. Didn't love so much the conversation about Kyle Pitts possibly not being there at number 6. I'm not going to like that. However, just thank you to Adam Caplan for talking some Eagles news with us. And this could drag out for a while when it comes to Zach Ertz. Maybe on during the draft. Maybe he's packaged along with a pick to get you a better pick somewhere else in the draft. Instead, if you're going to say, I don't want to settle for even a 4th-round pick or a 5th-round pick in return for Zach Ertz, maybe you're trading him along with maybe a low 3rd-round pick, maybe a low 4th-round pick, and maybe you're packaging those two things to move up back into the 3rd round for another pick. Maybe that's what you end up doing. But we'll see how it plays out. But it seems like it's not ending really anytime soon. It might end, hopefully, by the NFL draft, during the NFL draft. By the time the NFL draft's over, maybe we'll have we'll have a conclusion to the Zach Ertz chapter here in Philadelphia. Not that I'm rooting for it, but it just seems like it's inevitable. So thanks to Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds, checking us out right there. Before we get to our social media check-in and our morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motor Cars, and our social media check-in brought to you by Steak and Maine, do want to tell you about our friends at DraftKings, tell you about them in big bets a little bit more. But right now, how about some of the great things DraftKings has going on right now when it comes to all of the madness this month? DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new customers in the center of the action. Bet $1 on any tournament game, and if your team wins, you win $100. It's just that simple. Turning $1 into $100 is 100-to-1 odds. Pick any college basketball team that's still on the hunt for your shot to win $100, and all it takes is a $1 bet. It doesn't get any better than that. There's no better way to put your college basketball knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. Don't worry if college basketball isn't for you. DraftKings Sportsbook has 100-to-1 odds on select fighters for this weekend's UFC 260. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy when you sign up to turn $1 into $100 if the college basketball team of your choosing pulls off the victory. That's promo code Farzy to turn $1 into 100 smackers. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, present in Pennsylvania. New customers only. Restrictions apply. In partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. And Zatos Investments. We tell you about them all the time. Zatos Investments. If you haven't heard about them yet, you got to check them out. Info at ZatosInvestments.com. Also, ZatosInvestments.com. Up-and-coming luxury real estate development and investment company in the Philadelphia area. They design and develop top-of-the-line custom homes and are all around the city, ranging from small single-family rehabs to ground-up new construction townhomes and condo buildings. Zatos also works closely with their private investor base to provide them with substantial returns on their investment, ranging from 20 to 40%. These guys are crushing the Philadelphia real estate game right now. So get on board with Zatos. And while you're there, make sure you ask them what Zatos stands for. It's a fun story. To see some of their properties and to learn more and how you can invest with Zatos, reach out to info@zatosinvestments.com or visit zatosinvestments.com. And finally, our friends at Steak and Maine, Tony Cavada. Easter is just around the corner. Head up Steak and Maine in Northeast Maryland. Go to steakandmaine.com to see what they're doing for their brunch specials when it comes to Easter Sunday. They're always open for brunch, Sunday brunch. They're always open for a nice dinner throughout the week. A great lunch as well. Hit up Steak and Maine. See my man Tony Cavada, and even maybe indulge a little bit here in Cavada Cellars wines. That's right. A nice little wine pairing maybe with dinner. Delicious at Steak and Maine. And no matter what, if you like a casual bar, if you like to sit outside in the patio, maybe a little bit more upscale steakhouse, Steak and Maine has it all. World-class sushi as well. Oyster bar, fresh seafood, prime meats. And how good are those meats, by the way? Only named by the Travel and Cooking Channel as the #1 place for steaks in America. Steak and Maine. So check them out, steakandmaine.com in the heart of Northeast Maryland. See for yourself at steakandmaine.com. Speaking of Steak and Maine, they always bring us our social media check-in, brought to you by Steak and Maine. Let's see what the good people of Philadelphia are saying today. Good morning. Hey, Taylor. Good morning. Flyers are pathetic. I detect no lies, Jacob. Thank you for chiming in. Also saying, so pissed right now. I bet them to win the Stanley Cup. Thought the odds were good. Yeah, here's the thing. We've watched hockey before. We know it's weird. So let's just, if you're a Flyers fan and you have nothing else to cling to, just cling to the idea that hockey's weird. And sometimes you just get hot and you go win the Stanley Cup. That's all I got for you, folks. Sorry. I wish I had something more substantial, but I don't. What else do we have here? Bring back Andy McDonald. Evan's what's up, Evan? Yeah, I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's going to be the cure all. That might Flyers people's heads might explode. Although he is a veteran defenseman, and you know what? You sold me with that little line. You sold me. Sure, why not? It can't be worse. By the way, coming up in our next segment, we will let you hear from Elaine Vigneault as well as Claude Giroux on what they had to say after the loss last night. And it'll be a coaches segment. We'll also hear from Doc Rivers on what he made. I mentioned it earlier. You got to hear it. I'll play it for you. You got to hear what he said about Dwight Howard and Montreal's Harrell after Dwight Howard got ejected from the game. But yeah, Evan, you sold me. Andy McDonald, let's party. Nasty Knuckles saying, yeah, they're game for it. Nasty Knuckles also saying, this is ugly, Farzy, and I agree. It is very, very ugly. Mac is checking in saying Adam Caplan, bit of a Sixers insider. Love it. LOL. Yeah, I agree. He absolutely is. And Brett is also saying that he wants to steal OW as well. Yeah, OW offensive weapon. Yeah, I hear the kids talking. That's going to catch on. Thanks for everybody that checked in there on our YouTube page. By the way, we're at 769 subscribers right now on YouTube. So thank you for all the people that have helped us get off the ground there through the first nearly 2 months of doing this show. So shout out to all you great people. Also, a little bit later today, I do want to tell you I'm going to have a FanUp post for you. Some things going on with FanUp that you need to know about. And we'll get involved with that a little bit later today. So thank you for everyone that checked in there on our comment section on our YouTube page, courtesy of Steak and Maine. Now it's time for our morning rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Usually I like to give you some NBA scores. Really, I mean, the only thing that we can look at here, the Trailblazers, they beat the Heat 125-122. Knicks won 106-102 against the Wizards. Clippers won 98-85 against the Spurs. Warriors fell to the Kings 141-119. And I told you earlier the Lakers lost to the 76ers. Sixers won that game 109-101. More on that in just a second. However, there were some other things that I wanted to get to when it came to the trade deadline from yesterday. Aaron Gordon, JaVale McGee, they go to the Denver Nuggets. Victor Oladipo and Nemanja Bjelica, they go to the Heat. I had to memorize that name when the Sixers acquired him for about 20 minutes about 3 years ago. Rajon Rondo goes to the Clippers. Norman Powell ends up going to the Trailblazers. And George Hill, of course, goes to the 76ers. So those are some things that are just happened yesterday outside of just Philadelphia. I did mention this, and I want to get to it right now because I can't take it anymore. Elaine Vigneault highlighted after the game yesterday, after the Flyers just got embarrassed again for the second time in a week to the Rangers. Lost 8-3 last night. That this team hasn't had a practice in 12 days. All right, you know what? Maybe you need one of them regrouping sessions. it seems like the Flyers need a hell of a lot more than one practice. It seems like they need at least 10 practices. It seems like they need a lot of help in the defensive zone. There's just all sorts of problems with this Flyers team, as we have highlighted many times. But after the game, I'll let you hear from Alain Vigneault, and I'll also let you hear from Claude Giroux. But here's Alain Vigneault on what he wants to get accomplished at Flyers practice later today.
I would say execution with the puck, and we're obviously going to work on cleaning up a couple of areas in our zone here. Our PK tonight, the first 3 opportunities, I mean, they found the back of our net. So we got a couple of things that we need to work on, and we're going to do that tomorrow.
And let's hope that today is the day that they're actually able to correct those things. But I'll tell you right now, when it comes to this hockey team, it's going to need a lot more. They're going to need a lot more than just one practice. And as far as the execution of it goes, I'm in favor, to steal a line from years past. Claude Giroux on what happens now with the Flyers. And also, I believe the question's in here. He gets asked about Sam Morin being aggressive.
What do you say to the team after the second consecutive loss like this to the Rangers? And did Sam Morin kind of set the tone, do you hope, for next game?
I mean, we're in a tough position right now. Most important thing is everybody's got to look at themselves in the mirror and just do their job. And we play as a team out there. It's very frustrating the way it's going for us right now, but we just got to keep battling here.
I'm a big fight fan, and Rocky Marciano is one of my favorite all-time fighters. And there used to be stories written about Rocky Marciano, how a sparring partner would look like he just had cinder blocks lobbed at their head as they were walking out of the ring. And it was like a couple of writers wrote that. And that's what the Flyers look like in their post-game press conferences recently. They look like the sparring partner that just went, all right, I did my job. I helped them play better. And then they go away. And that's what it feels like when you watch post-game press conference with the Flyers. We'll see what happens when the Flyers get back at it after their practice today. Another embarrassing loss, like we can't highlight enough when it comes to what the Flyers have done. The bad news for them is that they got the Rangers again tomorrow. So we'll see how they end up responding from that, and hopefully they do respond with more than just Sam Morin just going out there looking to knock people's heads off. Not that I don't like that. Good to see you, Sam Morin. You know what? Finally, to close out our Morning Rush segment, let's end it on a more positive note, and that's the way Doc Rivers handled the Dwight Howard scenario, or the Dwight Howard situation of getting thrown out of yesterday's game. Take a look at Doc Rivers during the TNT broadcast when he was asked about Dwight Howard being thrown out of the game.
Clowns, guys just joking around. I mean, it's ridiculous on both parts. So I didn't like it, bottom line.
So now what do you do with the loss of Dwight Howard? More Mike Scott, obviously?
Yeah, Mike has 2 fouls. I think our next biggest guy is me. So, we'll see.
God bless you, Doc. Way to handle that. Yeah, we did see a lot more of Mike Scott. And yeah, you could have used Tony Bradley last night, but this is the one game you could have really used Tony Bradley. Doc, I think, handled that perfectly. And I think it's still a joke that only one player got ejected. If you were going to eject anybody in that, I would have ejected the guy that was shoving people as opposed to the guy that was just looking to be a nudge and was, by the way, being successful at it. That was the Morning Rush, brought to you by our good friends at Sky Motorcars at SkyMotorcars.com. And finally, DraftKings brings us our big bet segment. Here's what I did last night. As I told you yesterday, I was betting the Sixers -5.5. It ended up going to -6. Ben Simmons, I love you and your foul shooting because you just helped us cover that game last night. Not just me, producer extraordinaire Jim Hyden. Also, a couple of bucks on that game as well. So good hustle to you, Ben Simmons, for knocking those down to help the Sixers cover in last night's victory. And also, I couldn't help myself. I didn't think Tobias Harris with Seth Curry coming back and Danny Green actually playing. He had the hip thing, but he played. I didn't think, for whatever reason, I just felt like this was a game that Danny Green was going to go off on. So I actually bet Tobias Harris, but I wasn't sure how well he'd go off. But I thought it would affect Tobias Harris's scoring. So I actually bet his under. He was going off at 22.5. I bet Tobias Harris's under. I ended up hitting on both bets last night, the Sixers to cover and Tobias Harris under the points. I hate the under because you're rooting against the guy essentially. But whatever. I'm like $7 richer. So there you go. But make sure you do all your betting with DraftKings and DraftKings Sportsbook. And always have yourself a good time. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with me this week. I know I sound like crap Hopefully, I'll get some rest this weekend, and I will be back Monday just stronger than ever. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the NCAA tournament. Enjoy Villanova going at it again this weekend as well. And enjoy, hopefully, the Flyers bouncing back and the Sixers taking it to the Clippers tomorrow night in the new George Hill era. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Subscribe on YouTube, please. And also, Jim Hyden, good job producing the program. This is a Buzz Sports and Entertainment production. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you on Monday. Take it easy.